Hey guys, it's WooGs here. Just recording a Plagues on kill. I got the, uh, I guess, urge to do this because somebody, tossed me off a jab for this just yesterday. So I was like, I think I can make this work with my leftover gear. That was Chronos Voyage, of course. So I kind of just threw together um, the gear based on what I had from Cobra, Desecrate, and then my physical Zon. So I kind of had not ideal things, but I had everything I kind of needed. I'll go through the gear at the end. I talk about it when I recorded the video, so it's just the live voice there, so you can kind of just listen to that one there at the end. But so the gear is not ideal, obviously. Um, it's pretty budget actually. Some of it. I mean, I have some good items, but some really bad items, so it kind of evens out that way. I'm just collecting the rejuves here. So, I mean, Plague is what I used for Season 9 #1 Zon kill for TT Rathma. So, you know, this is just a quick run I did this season, but I had a lot of experience from it doing many runs last season. I farmed it on Poison Plague Zon last season, so it is quite strong, but I had really good gear at the end of it for last season. Last season I also went with decoys a little bit for phase 3 and 2. I had some FCR on a couple pieces of gear, so it kind of made sense. I don't this season, and I just kind of wanted to record one without the decoys, because it's not really needed. I did screw up my skills, so my Pierce is all screwed up, which is frustrating, but it still works, so you'll see it. I did this one kind of lazy, to be honest with you, phase 1, but I think Plagues On has probably the easiest phase 1 of maybe any character. I say that because some Zons, I mean, some melee characters can get, um, really easy men down phasing and such, but the Plague Zon, you could literally just run along the outside here, and you are faster than the poison bolt he throws at you. So I get a bit lazy and get hit by it, so I use some extra pots, but I think I do 1 or 2 runs showing that there. So let's see if the next run phase does that. But it's kind of you'll always two-shot, even with lower plague, you'll always two-shot the golems, so you don't really have to worry, and you can just run along the outside and dodge all the damage. So the only time you can get hurt is here, and you could stand a bit further away. I have high cold res, so I'm not that worried about it. But let's see if I do it here. No, I don't. I'm lazy again. But I'll probably in the second pass I will. So you could just stay along the outside, which I cut the corner again there, being lazy. I think because I just know I have a lot of pots, but you can kind of see at the beginning there, you can just outrun the poison orbs the whole time, and you'll never get hit by them. So you don't really have to pot at all for that phase, which is very easy. And then this one here, you should just stand still more or less where I was, and then just dodge the spires. You're never gonna not phase him there. Like to skip the golems, you're always gonna get the poison nova to have the antidote. So you should really just put in a little bit of damage and move on. I seem to remember doing it, so maybe it's this phase that I do it. So you can see here I haven't got hit by any of the orbs yet. You're just faster than them. So, if you stop and take too long to click, you might get hit by one. But, so that was a 0 poison phase there. I had 1 rejuve I had to do. So, if you practice a lot, and when I was farming it, that's kind of what I did, is, you can just do that. So it's pretty risk-free, this phase. Now, you do want to have pretty good resistances on the Plague Zone. I do like having high cold or high fire. It's kind of weird. You can get away, 90, 90, 90 is obviously the best, but you can kind of get away with lower fire or cold. I've been playing around with a lot of different stuff this season. I'm not sure. I almost kind of prefer, instead of doing like 87, 87 or something like that, I kind of prefer doing like a one of them being 90 and the other one being like 86. I mean, or as high as you can, but like getting one to 90 and then trying to get the other one up. Because you can kind of play around that. Like if you have 90 cold, this phase is really easy, but also the Bale Wave, like you see, it's almost doing nothing to me. So that in phase 3, I can kind of ignore that. Similar for fire, if my fire is really high, I can just kind of not worry about the Fire Knights first, and I can focus down the Fizz guy, which is very helpful, and the Conjuring Soul Fisher is much less annoying. Now you're going to say, well, I just get 90 for all three, of course, you know, that's the best, but you do run into some issues with life and such for that, because you don't want to get too low life that you're just going to get blown up by the magic damage in the fight. So it's kind of a, if you can do it, then obviously do it, but um, you don't want to sacrifice too much damage or health to do that. So, and I would say that's one of the things for a Plagues on, is you can't just go pure tanky. If you go pure tanky, you probably, I mean, you'll breeze through phase 1 and phase 2 because they are quite easy for Plagues on. It's kind of designed for those phases, I would say. But phase 3, I personally still think there's a little bit of a bug with how the poison damage is working on the two bosses, but let's say there isn't. And by that I mean it's not doing enough damage as much as it should be. Let's say there isn't. I still don't think your damage is quite enough to get through all those phases. Now, in this run, I had a very good, you know, Void Knight phases with my on in P3, but that's not not always the case. But I'd say the Void Knights are kind of the easiest part of the fight, as long as you have you're constantly getting your plagues off, so that you're breaking your cages. But let's talk about phase 2 first. So phase 2 again is quite easy. I think many of you talked about that last season. Rathma is kind of very easy to deal with. Movement speed is one of the things that I think kind of counters him, because you are trying to dodge spears, but if you have enough movement speed, you can also kind of dodge the teeth a lot. You'll see that later. I mean, if you're in the center of the teeth, you're never going to dodge it, but you will be able to dodge a lot of the spears and some of the teeth where you're kind of on the outside there, and also get out of things like the fire patches here. Now, I did have an issue. My headset fell off here, or not fell off, but it disconnected. So I was trying to fix that, but then I just kind of ignored that. So I played without sound for this part here. So it's not my favorite to do that, because I'm all about sound in these fights. It was still kind of fine, but it was kind of just annoying me. So you see here, when the knights are coming out, you kind of just want to space them. So stay on the other side of the screen. You know, again, as I talked before, run perpendicular as you can. See, that's the bad cage spot you can get into. I wasn't running into my poison, which you should try to do. So you get through your cages. I'll do that later, which you'll see. But you'll see there, kind of cleaned up. I think I was a little bit flustered at this whole sound issue, so I was trying to fix that here. So I'm trying to use this time for a second. You see, I'm kind of just standing, not really attacking. I'm just trying to, with one hand, trying to throw my pot with my mouse there and plug in my headset. I don't think it's worth it, what I'm doing here, but that will kind of explain my sporadic playing. Yeah. But I think it was at this point I had it fixed. Yeah, I think at this point now that I'm actually, you can see there that was a teeth dodge. You can kind of outrun the teeth to the side there. And here's a good knight phase. You'll see I'm just going to space it on this side. So we're just going to kind of throw through the run perpendicular and then throw our javelins near the pack. And we killed all of them but that one. There he goes. He went down. So that was kind of basically as clean as you can get for the knights, and that's kind of what you want. The Plague handles the knights so well in certain situations. I mean, if you get caged and you're in damage and you're going to get constantly FHR locked, you're not going to be able to get your plagues off and the knights are going to kill you. So that's when it feels bad. But if you're able to kind of space yourself so that if you do get caged, you're not getting smoked by all the knights at once, then that's kind of the real success. You see, that's kind of a bad situation where I'm getting hit by all the knights. But again, since the knights are die so quickly and you can cover so much area to kind of AoE them all down, you can kind of overpot all the cages. So I almost pot every cage I get into just to make sure I don't get FHR lock, so I can get my plague javelin off. Now I don't do that when it's just Mendel out because it's not a big deal. If it's just him because he can't really FHR lock me, I'll just throw my plague out and get that sorted. So there are quite a few pots left there. I kind of used a little bit extra there in that one phase, but overall it was pretty good. Yeah, there you can see I was mad about this. I didn't check my pierce when I respect, because I would not have gone in with 52, 53 pierce, because the idea is you want to be able to throw it at the cage and it to break the cage but also pass through to hit a knight during those situations, so you don't get FHR lock. But also on knight phases you can throw it and hit the first knight and have it pierce through further, or if Rathma teleports in front of you, pierce through further, or lastly, hitting Meldown or Rathma and having it hit the other boss. So having 50 some odd pierce is definitely not a good idea. You don't need 100, but getting 75 or so is definitely something you can do that would, I think, be an intelligent decision to make. Just then you have it more often that you're going to get it happening. And it wouldn't be that many more points to go from 52, 53 to into the 70s. So if I was to be doing more kills on this, I would obviously upgrade the gear a little bit, but then I would also work on a respec. I'd have a bit more life and everything too, so it's probably for the best. Now I definitely was a bit rusty at Plague, so bear with me here in P3. I don't think I do it optimally, but let's try to see if we can catch some of the mistakes. So, again, that's when it's only going to hit one boss there, so having more pierce would definitely help. You want to, of course, as always, you want to try to stay close to Mendown and be damaging both. I do think you don't want to just focus Mendown here. You want to damage both bosses. I still think that the poison damage doesn't quite work as you expect. Like, if you're hitting Mendown, I don't think Rathma takes as much damage when you do poison attacks as it does with other attacks, is what I mean by bugged. So, if you only hit Mendown with poison, you'll most likely phase Mendown 2 or 3 times before Rathma gets phased, which doesn't really make sense with the shared HP mechanic. So what I try to do is, on a poison build now, at least since this season such, I try to damage both bosses, just so I can kind of get those phasings off. I don't know why lately in these videos I've had that my my first minute of these fights is always terrible. It's like I'm warming up somehow. But I use so much pots there before the knights that I have to kind of do much better. That was a very spread out knight phase, which is really what you don't want. And it was also a back-to-back sludge on Mendown, so not ideal. But again, during the night phase, you just want to every 1 second be casting your plagues, just to make sure you are covering the whole field so they're all kind of damaged. So now the idea, we're just listening for spears. We're kind of only watching Rathma. And we're just throwing spears to where Mendown is, or where Rathma is. So we're just kind of really trying to watch what Rathma is doing so that we can dodge spears, but trying to stay close to Mendown as much as we can. Now you can't just really hug Mendown the whole time. You see as I move away, because if you do get hit by a Cold Nova into a spear, you're probably going to die. So you kind of have to be moving again kind of perpendicular away from him, so that if he does cast it, you're going to get knocked to the side and most likely not get hit by a spear because your position will get knocked sideways as opposed to knocked backwards. So you'll most likely not get hit by a spear there. So, we got hit by some damage there, but that was a very nice Void Knight phase that we were able to take them down quite quickly, even though we took a lot of damage from the bosses. So, as you're trying to watch the bosses and taking damage, you're really trying to make sure that you're staying far away at the edge of the arena like that, and aiming as much as you can at the Void Knights. Let's see, these are unfortunate Sludge Novas, but it's a bit of the name of the game on this fight. And you can, with this movement speed, you can dodge the cold waves a lot. So you'll see this is a kind of a pretty good night phase here. Maybe it was the second one I thought was good. Didn't really remember. It wasn't bad. But we have a lot of crap going on right now with the bosses throwing out all their spells, plus a Conjuring Soul in the middle. So there's definitely a lot of damage. So we're trying to, as best as we can, focus or remember what's still out there. And I think that's maybe something that people have a bit of a hard time with too, is you really gotta clock how many Knights and Conjuring Souls there are out, so that you can kind of remember as you're going through and know where to look out for and where to be kind of throwing your spells, because you want to get them down as quick as possible. You don't want extra, well, when the Knights are out, you're not damaging the bosses, which is obviously the problem. And you don't want too many souls out, because if you start getting 2 or 3 souls out, you are in big trouble. Being against the wall there was very bad. So you kind of want to stay a little bit away, but again, being close to Mendel. But you can see the health here, like Mendel's almost dead. And I've been hitting, Rathma directly a lot too, and he's got a decent amount of health left. So definitely I don't think the mechanic works very well at all for shared HP with poison. I would say that like fire teeth is one of my least favorites. It does a lot of damage and it's frustrating to dodge. But there you go. That's the Plagues on. I think I talked about the audio talking audio about the gear now, so I'll switch over to that audio and cheers, guys. Oh, that was a bit of a rough one, but yeah, it's kind of fucked up at the end there, but wasn't in my groove. I mean, my headset disconnected at the second phase, so that was kind of annoying. But here we go. So just go through the gear here for Plague Java. It's not really BIS at all. It's kind of I threw together. Buddy there from Discord passed me over this one just yesterday. It's nothing too crazy. It's just kind of a really just kind of a low requirement Jav that I like to use on my Plague Guild. That was Chronos Voyage, of course. So it's just a +5 Jav with 9 poison. It has IAS, but I actually don't really need the IAS because I'm hitting the IAS with my gear. So it's really just a +5 with 9 Pierce. This is instead of Gargoyles, because Gargoyles has the big stat requirements. Max Fire and Dargo's Visage, just, kind of what I had, kind of gives me some good life. This is my physical Jav AME, but it's kind of working. It has no res on it, which made this kind of very difficult. I'm also using a Venomore. This is the one I had in my Necro. 10 -10 with a jaw on it. So this here, I have way too much, poison. I have way too much poison res. I'm capped without this, so this armor here is just giving me the stats. So I could have used something else for sure. But like I said, it's what I had on me. So you could do this same setup. Now, you wouldn't really want to use a Bramble because my PLR would be too rough. So I could do a Bramble if I had this shield with PLR on it. That would be, the best setup, obviously. But without that, we do this. You could just do a PLR crafted kind of armor would work. This is literally like a brick that I did just today. I was just trying to get a decent shield. This is just a 1 Dazan and 14 all res 3 socket shield. And I put an in there and then 2 random facets, 5 -4, 2 of them. The 9 strength, this was after I leveled my character, so I didn't So I would actually have more life, but I didn't strength bug my character, so it just is what it is. Some 230 PLR Jav gloves. You don't really need the IAS on this, so you could change that out. Nature's here. It's not max fire, which is kind of crappy. I wish it was, because I don't even need the poison, obviously. So Snow Clash again. This one is only a +5, but I have 90 cold, so that's fine. Uh, my PLR ring I like to use. These boots are just for high res. They have no PLR, but has really high res, and that's letting me hit my res because my Miami doesn't have any. Then we're just using Jav Skillers and a bunch of res charms. So +2 Annie and Torch. Now skills, obviously, we're just maxing Plague, Poison Jav, and Jav and Spear. I don't like my setup here because I didn't respec and I screwed up my skill allocation. I wanted to increase Pierce, but I kind of shift clicked a little bit on before that, so or control clicked and I ran out of points. So, and I have too much FHR as well, so I would have dropped this down a little bit and a little bit here on the breakpoint. You see, I'm not really reaching any better breakpoint here, and put more into Pierce because you want to be able to pierce that cage and then also poison the knights. But it is what it is. So that's the Jav Poison Plague job. Yeah, so I'll keep working on some other ones I'm going at, but yeah, hope you guys liked it. Cheers. Later.